Hi everyone, welcome back to my page. This week I wanted to discuss a very interesting topic that was brought to my attention by one of you guys, and it was to discuss sibling relationships. This is something that I'll be honest, I didn't really consider ever doing a video on, but of course it's one of the most important relationships in our lives aside from our parents and our spouse, so you're out to want to fix it and resolve it if there is some sort of tension, animosity, or just lack of relationship between you and your sibling. If you haven't been to my page, welcome. I'm Hamasa. I look at personal development as well as mental and emotional well-being and just day-to-day issues. So please subscribe to my page so that you're up to date with all my weekly videos. Sibling relationships could either be the best thing that you could ever ask for, like your in-house best friend, or it could be incredibly difficult and complicated depending on the family dynamic. And this is what I wanted to look at and explore today. Of course, there are a number of factors to take into account when you're considering the relationship between your siblings and yourself. I had a question from an older sister, and she wanted to know how to really cope and handle her younger brother who doesn't listen to her, even though she's trying to look out for him and she's trying to say what's best for him, and he's just rebelling and being very difficult. So this is where it's important for us to look at, are you the oldest sibling? Are you the middle child? Are you the youngest sibling? I'd take it that most people that would want to watch this is probably because they're the older sibling and they kind of have, they're a little bit more self-aware or aware of the situation with their younger sibling, and they can verbalize it and contextualize it and actually realize that there's an issue. I don't really see a younger sibling really, if they're living in the same household and they're under the age of 18, to kind of wake up one day and be like, oh, I really want to fix my relationship with my older sister or brother, because they tend to kind of rebel. That's what they do. So it's kind of down to the older sibling to figure out what is going on with their younger sibling and why they're behaving the way they are. So depending whether this sibling is the middle child or the youngest, boy or a girl, these things make a huge difference. So every family, every dynamic, every domestic situation is very different. In Asian cultures and households, of course, we have to be aware of the whole having a son or a brother and having a daughter, having a girl, because whether we like it or not, we have to face that the boys get treated very differently by our parents and possibly other siblings than the girls do. So that's a key thing for us to consider. If there is some sort of animosity or awkwardness between your brother and you, most likely this dynamic comes from parents mistreating one to the other. So if you're a boy, you're getting away with a lot more, and this will create resentment. If you're the girl, you're not gonna like your mom being okay with your brother being out and about or going out to birthdays or doing something, and they don't reciprocate that back to you. When it comes to you, it's completely different rules. So of course this is gonna create some sort of animosity between you and your brother. But if that's not the case, or that's not the main reason of this sort of tension, then as an older sibling, I'd say that the first thing for you to really consider and see is that why do you expect your sibling to listen to you? Why should they? They don't, just because it's the same notion as when your mom tells you to do something and you just think, why should I do that? And her answer is, because I'm your mother. It's the same thing when it comes to your sibling. Just because you're the older sibling does not mean that the younger child should do exactly what you tell them to or listen to you. The dynamic would only work if you listen to them. Because as an adult or someone older, you have the experience and knowledge to understand how to approach situations or how to discuss them. But if you're younger, you probably don't really know or have the communication skills to express what's really bothering you. So you're acting out in a way to get some sort of attention or reaction. And so it comes down to your older sibling to kind of suss that out and figure you out and listen to you. But not have the expectation, or you as an older sibling shouldn't have the expectation that they should listen to you just because you're older. So this is like the main thing for us to wrap our heads around. That no one should really be doing anything we want them to do just because we want them to do it, even though we think that it's for their own well-being. You have to, the same way that you felt like you needed to go through this to figure yourself out and know yourself and you know what's best, your sibling thinks the same thing. Just because you've experienced it a few years earlier and you know better does not mean that you can impose your experiences on them. So to get through to a stage where you could comfortably ask your sibling not to do something and they listen to you out of respect, you have to show that to them first. They have to learn to take that away from you. I found some statistic because, to be honest, sibling relationships isn't something I really considered doing a video on, like I said before, because it's just my brother and I in my household, and we are incredibly close. He is my best friend in the world, and we have a big age gap, but that's never really been an issue. And I couldn't honestly imagine my life without my brother. So I've been incredibly lucky. I know that. I understand that. I'm very blessed because our relationship is very mutual. The love, the respect, everything is always from both ways. But I know that there are many people that don't get along with their siblings. And doing some research on this topic, I came across a statistic that said that a younger child in the family looks to their parents as only 10% parenting comes from the parent and 30% parenting comes from the older sibling. So they literally watch and sponge off what we do, or the things that they don't like, they then rebel or kind of react to that and act up because they don't know how to maybe not be like you if they don't like something that you do. Or maybe they're trying to copy you because you're getting away with it. So a lot of, no pressure, but a lot of the parenting and what younger siblings or kids look up to is in their older siblings. So the best way to get through to your younger ones is to set the example. So you've got to listen to them and not expect them to listen to you. The next thing is to get to know them very well, because you need to understand where this is coming from. So like I said, consider the family dynamic, see it for what it is, and understand where is this resent coming from? Why does it feel so heavy on your sibling for them to rebel and lash out at you or at the family generally? Because they're basically not understanding how they feel, and so they're taking that out in ways by misbehaving. So that could be from the family dynamic, that could be from school. You need to get to know their friends. You need to know who they hang out with, who their influences are, and also at school, whether they're getting bullied, whether they fit in. So watch out for little things like their clothing, whether they are hygienic, they shower regularly, they're doing their homework, things that they could possibly get picked on, or they're internalizing and they're acting out by just neglecting themselves, neglecting their feelings, or being irrational. So you need to do some background research before you start confronting or accusing, which is my next point that I'm going to come to. But the main thing to do is to basically do some due diligence and some background research and find out that everything's good with the people that they hang out with at school, with your parents, what the relationship dynamic is with them, because they may not be able to act that out towards your mom or your dad, but they can act that out towards you. So you might just be the punching bag of internalized issues that they're dealing elsewhere. So that's why it's important for you to kind of, instead of asking them, because they're never going to tell you the truth, they probably don't feel safe with you. That's why they do that. And you need to find out why. Why don't they feel safe? Or why don't they trust what you say? or why do they behave and act and react the way they do. My next point is accusing them. So if you start accusing your sibling of always doing bad things or lying or doing things that they shouldn't be, they now already think that you don't have trust in them. And regardless of what they say, you're going to think bad of them anyway. So it kind of becomes a knock-on effect and turns into this self-fulfilling prophecy that, let's say you don't want your sister to have a boyfriend. The first time she goes out, she just hangs out with guys and girls, a group of friends. She comes home, you're accusing her of doing the worst and breaking that trust and being horrible and hanging out and doing something she shouldn't have been with a boy. The next time she goes out, because she thinks that you think that of her anyway, even when she is behaving well, she might as well do it because you think the worst regardless. So why should she hold back and shouldn't act out on what she wants to do? Because regardless of what she says, you are not listening, which creates this sort of dynamic of them lying to you, hiding things from you, and you having to do more research, you having to do more snooping to get to it, and then arguing with them. But if you create this environment that I am listening to you, what is it that's bothering you? If you don't want to do this, why not? What's upsetting you? What's happening? Talk to me, figure it out. Then they feel safe enough to be able to be honest with you and be open with you without worrying about the repercussions, and you taking what they say and giving them that trust, giving them that respect, the same way that you expected to get that from your parents. And once you've built that relationship, then you become friends with your sibling, and then it's very easy for you to be able to communicate, have these discussions, and you asking them to do and not do things, and them listening and having that trust that you're not doing it to control them, but you're doing it to support them. You're doing it to make life easier for them because you know better, and why shouldn't you? So these are the things for us to consider if our sibling is rebelling. As the older sibling, it kind of falls on us to pick up the pieces where our parents kind of didn't know any better or didn't realize, but we do because we've walked that path before them. So instead of accusing and expecting, we should support and make them feel safe and fix the things that we know could have benefited us. If you've enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to my channel, like and comment on this, and share this with someone who may find it helpful. Like I said, my brother is my absolute best friend, and I wish that on everyone, because your sibling is the best thing that could happen to you if you guys see eye to eye and have each other's backs. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you here again next week.